two-day hurricane warning for Collier County, Florida, effective until 8:11 p.m. Locations affected: Naples, Marco Island, Everglades City. Wind, latest local forecast, equivalent Cat 3 hurricane force wind, peak wind forecast, 95 to 115 H with gusts to 155 H. Window for tropical storm force winds, Saturday afternoon until early Monday morning. Window for hurricane force winds, Sunday morning until Sunday evening. Current threat to life and property, extreme. The wind threat has increased from the previous assessment. Emergency plans should include a reasonable threat for major hurricane force wind greater than 110 H of equivalent Category 3 intensity or higher. To be safe, aggressively prepare for the potential of devastating to catastrophic wind impacts. Remaining efforts to secure properties should now be brought to completion. Extremely dangerous and life-threatening wind is possible. Failure to adequately shelter may result in serious injury, loss of life, or immense human suffering. Move to safe shelter before the wind becomes hazardous. Potential impacts: devastating to catastrophic, structural damage to sturdy buildings, some with complete roof and wall failures, complete destruction of mobile homes, damage greatly accentuated by large airborne projectiles. Locations may be uninhabitable for weeks or months. Numerous large trees snapped or uprooted along with fences and roadway signs blown over. Many roads impassable from large debris, and more within urban or heavily wooded places. Many bridges, causeways, and access routes impassable.
That's fun.
Many roads impassable from large debris, and more within urban or heavily wooded places. Many bridges, causeways, and access routes impassable. Widespread power and communications outages. The most common house plants in the entire country.
Yeah, it's just so easy.
They have closed down the hospital, closed down the emergency room. Bayfront Health Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda System have consolidated resources to Bayfront Health and Port Charlotte. But again, Bayfront Health and Punta Gorda is closed. And we're just also getting word that Kingsway Elementary School shelter in Port Charlotte is now at capacity. So they are no longer taking people at the Kingsway Elementary School shelter in Port Charlotte. A lot of people are, flocking out to these shelters.
Yes, they are. We've seen several shelters already at capacity. We've seen, particularly in Collier County, opening additional shelters as quickly as they can, and we're still waiting for word on those.
What the Bible says about a globe-shaped earth and a flat.
Yes. Or a life and faith page at klove.com. This is Closer Look.
Let one rip.
That guy looks like he uses a doorbell. Let's get him.
And actually, people think that I have a pretty good memory grasp of Scripture.
It reads like this: your silver has become dross, your drink diluted with water.
Pelican Bay towards Bonita Springs. Here's going to be Bonita Beach Road. Also Tamiami Trail, Bonita Springs, Pelican Bay. Here's Vanderbilt Drive. Looks like a good shot that they could see several feet of that saltwater flooding. But as you go more inland, not much of an issue. Orange Tree, you're going to be fine. Immokalee, you're going to be fine. So no issue with storm surge. Your primary issue is going to be the potential for damaging winds.
Ulta Beauty, all things beauty, all in one place.
The following is an important message from Florida Power and Light. Safety is always FPL's first priority during a storm, and we urge you to make safety your top priority too.
South of Pine Island, A and B. Mandatory evacuations, and it is because of this that water level rise. Okay? And I tell you what, we actually had one viewer that said, hey, I want you to show me the southern part of the Cape, so I will do that for them. Okay, so there you go. There's a zoomed-in look. I had somebody on Facebook that said he wanted a closer look. So there you go. There's the southern part. And again, zones A and B, southern part of the Cape. So around the Caloosahatchee, that water still is going to try to build up. Again, this worst-case scenario, we hope that it doesn't happen. You can see that around Olga. You try to get everything that you can, have that plan ready to go with your family. And again, zones A and B, mandatory evacuation as we zoom on in, especially for those areas of yellow and orange. That does include especially around Charlotte Harbor, all the way down towards Punta Gorda, and then up the Peace River.
And the difference. All hours of streaming are brought to you by our friends Jason and Todd with the Diamond District in Estero.
Start your vacation with Key West Express. Get away to Key West, the vacation spot of pirates, poets, presidents, and...
Shelter, Germain Arena has given a thumbs up to those with pets. Previously, it said no pets, now it's under. We're here for you. We're live. And we've got perishable food items that need to be ingested.
It's well over 100. There's even the possibility of over 150, again embedded within that worst part of the storm and the eye wall. So as we fast forward even more towards 5 o'clock, you can notice that possibly, again, this is subject to a few changes in some adjustments, but what you'll notice is that Naples could be within the eye and the core of the system, and that would push the eye wall continued toward the north, including parts of Lee County.
Category 3 storm with winds of 125 miles per hour. This is a deadly nature storm, and our state has never seen anything like it. Millions of Floridians will see major hurricane impacts with deadly, deadly, deadly storm surge and life-threatening winds.
Off your plan when you visit grasshopper.com/radio. Grasshopper.com/radio. GEICO presents a voicemail from your...
Enjoy the easy sounds of Quixie WQXY.
Listener supported WAVV.
If you're going to shelter with somebody, go somewhere where you've got people who can think on their feet and make quick decisions and make, hopefully, good decisions. That's another thing. You know, the people you're with are going to be the thing that are going to sustain you over the next days, weeks, maybe even months. So it's a little late to be picky, but bear in mind that everybody you're with is going through the exact same thing you're going through. And the best thing you can do is approach this from an attitude of positivity and can do. And I remember Henry Ford's great saying, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that's what we're going to be facing here in Collier, Lee, Charlotte, Hendry, Glades, DeSoto. We're going to be facing all of these issues. You know, you saw the stuff on TV with Hurricane Harvey. You saw the flooding. You said to yourself, there but for the grace of God. And now the people in Colorado and Missouri and up in Connecticut and Michigan, I've been hearing from people during the show this morning from all over the country, and they're all saying the same thing. There but for the grace of God go I. So think about that when you're working on recovery. You're not going to be alone. And that's another thing that's important to remember. You're not, whether you have faith, whatever it is, the government has pledged all of their resources. The state, the county, federal government have pledged all of their resources to help us, and we're going to hold them to it. We're going to hold them to it. We will hold them to it on this radio station and on these radio programs. We will hold them to it as a community, and we will unite, and we will get things done that need to be done. I know I'm sounding like, end of days here. It's not that, but this is damned serious, and you better take it seriously. That's going to do it for me. We're going to rejoin live coverage of hurricane coverage from NBC2 and ABC7. And again, I remind you that if you can't hear us on the station you're listening to now, try one of our other stations, because there's a possibility with power outages and so on that one or more could go off the air. And the stations are 98.9 WGUF, Gator Country 101.9, 101.9 Bob FM, 104.7 The Mix. That's going to do it for me. Stay safe. Stay calm. We'll talk to you on the other side.
Winner of 8 regional Edward R. Murrow Awards, including overall excellence for the 3rd year in a row. That's why you count on NBC2. Stay tuned for continuous combined coverage of Hurricane Irma.
Our team coverage continues with us joining forces. NBC2 and ABC7 are in nonstop coverage this morning throughout Southwest Florida, keeping track of Hurricane Irma's progress.
Yeah, meteorologist Jason Denning and Cody Murphy are here right now to answer questions that has been submitted to our newsroom. To evacuate if she lives 10 feet up. So does she need to evacuate if that storm surge is 9 feet?
And where does she live? Did she say where she lives?
Fort Myers Beach.
Bonita Beach, Cape Coral. This is the Zone A part, west of Burnt Store, south of Cape Coral Parkway.
Meant to be, and honestly, I'm way too done with them.
They had 19 shelters. They opened some more this morning, but some people went from shelter to shelter looking for a place to stay last night and were turned away. They were told, I'm sorry, we don't have any room for any more people.
One of the reasons Irma dropped to a Category 3 storm is because of the unexpected heavy contact the storm made with Cuba. CBS's Portia Siegelbaum is there.
It hit the oldest city in Cuba, which is called Baracoa, and it went in there with enormous storm surge. It just destroyed buildings along the coast.
Meanwhile, officials in the hard-hit U.S. Virgin Islands are still trying to take stock of the devastation left by Irma. Governor Kenneth Mapp.
What I saw in St. Thomas from the aerial reconnaissance and St. John was bad. The tremendous amount of roofs on homes are off. A number of homes have walls collapsed.
Many U.S. tourists remain trapped on the island, some with little or no shelter, food, or water. With wildfire smoke covering much of the western U.S.
Tropical storm force winds will arrive in southwest Florida as early as this afternoon, with hurricane conditions.
Cat Country 1071. We are Southwest Florida's #1 for new country. Kip Moore,
Showers and isolated thunderstorms in the afternoon. Tonight, tropical storm conditions expected with hurricane conditions possible. Northeast winds 25 to 30 knots with gusts to around 40 knots, increasing to 30 to 35 knots with gusts to around 50 knots after midnight. Seas 10 to 14 feet. Scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. Sunday, hurricane conditions expected. Northeast winds 40 to 50 knots with gusts to around 65 knots, then becoming north 50 to 70 knots with gusts to around 90 knots in the afternoon. Seas 12 to 16 feet building to over 20 feet in the afternoon. Numerous showers in the morning. Isolated thunderstorms. Widespread showers in the afternoon. The National Weather Service in Miami has issued a tornado warning for south central Collier County in southwestern Florida until 12:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. At 12:08 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located 10 miles southwest of Big Cypress National Preserve.
September 11th, actually. He's going to be speaking down here in San Diego, 6 to 8 p.m. for the Hort Society's meeting.
La nueva rumbera, 97.3 por Myers y 95.7 Naples. ¡Al verdadero rumbero!
We did have to evacuate a number of our own fire stations and house them elsewhere because they were in the flood evacuation zone. So we do have them housed elsewhere. Obviously, when it's time to, when the conditions have cleared, we will send them out to respond, but it will be from a different fire station. So it may take them a little longer to get there, but as soon as we're able to provide help, we will.
And lastly, Andrea, what is, you talked about going through that list of 911 calls after the storm comes through. What is the other process of the firefighters, after the storm hits? Are they going to be going out?
Okay, so with that background in mind, let's get down into the weeds. Let's get down to brass tacks.
Oh, God, forgive us.
Good morning. It's 11:04. I'm meteorologist Cindy O'Quinn of the Florida Public Radio Emergency Network. We are continuing to track Hurricane Irma. It made landfall this morning, crossing over Cudjoe Key and Big Pine Key at 9:10 was the center of the eye as it crossed over the Keys. It is now pushing to the north at 9 miles per hour, and we are looking at the pressure up now at 933 millibars, located now just to the 80 miles to the southeast of Naples. And what we are expecting is that sometime in the next 7 hours, we could see landfall in the San Marco Island area as a second landfall of Hurricane Irma. Right now, again, is expected to continue that northerly pass and impact southwestern sections of Florida. We do get through the central portion of the state, causing tornado warnings. We'll continue to keep you updated. I'm meteorologist Cindy O'Quinn.
From WGCU News, I'm John Davis. This morning, 30-year veteran of emergency management in Southwest Florida, Wayne Saladay, known as Hurricane Wayne, says Irma is the storm emergency managers have always feared.
This is the nightmare scenario. This is a storm that's going to affect 80% of the people in Florida. They now have hurricane warnings out for Tallahassee. And I guarantee you,
it all depends on the actual track of the storm. Law enforcement operations, as well as EMS and fire services, have been suspended in Lee, Collier, Hendry, and Charlotte counties due to increasing wind speeds. Deteriorating conditions and high wind gusts have prompted the Florida Highway Patrol to pull troopers from the roads and portions of Southwest Florida as well. FHP Lieutenant Gregory Bueno advises the public to stay sheltered. Worsening conditions are making traveling on roads in this region extremely dangerous at this time.
Together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all.
Either way, it's going to be the eye is going to be very close to Naples. A little bit of shift either way. Whether we're at Cat 3 or Cat 4, depending on what those wind speeds are at this point, are incidental. The fact of the matter is you need to stay put, you need to stay indoors, you need to get off the road, and understand that this is going to take hours. We're going to
evacuations for our flood zone A, voluntary evacuations for our flood zone B, and we are hearing that there is an unprecedented number of Manatee County residents in our shelters, upwards of 23,000 at this hour. But the problem here in Manatee County is that the window is rapidly narrowing for when our residents can take shelter. So we're within a couple of hours here of no longer being able to move safely out of doors. So everybody being encouraged now to pick their final place, hunker down, whether it is at home or in a shelter. In fact, a 24-hour curfew is being imposed here in Manatee County from Sunday at 3.
And across the state, FPNL is reporting to us 25,600 outages. So maybe 35 miles per hour is all the wind speed that the bucket trucks and line crews can work in. So we're certainly well above those wind values, so they're not able to go and respond at this point. National Weather Service continuing to tell us that the storm is roughly 130 miles per hour, continues to track to the north. A rough approximation, again, because of the variables with this storm, is seeing the eye cross very close to Naples mid to late afternoon. So again, a little bit of a regional communication and coordination. All of our communication systems are up and running, doing very well. Our liaison in coordination with the state EOC has worked just like a champ. Needs to bring supplies and equipment in. I personally spoke with FEMA Administrator Brock Long today. And again, we'll continue to assess every hour equipment, personnel, supply. You might be used to looking at stoplights, and you really should be looking down at a stop sign or temporary signage that may be their temporary signal. We do have backup power and backup question or other issues that the sheriff has. You have some form of identification that ties you to the business that you're working.
It alerts and the warning goes out, and that's what we're talking about when we say these little spin-ups with that tornado warning. So places like Commonwealth Avenue and Old Polk City Road, we're talking, is that Fussell Road? That's where that rotation is in the Polk City area, and that is quickly moving off toward the west. And the other warning storm, Lindsay, is the one that's east of Zephyr Hills, right around Rock Ridge Road.
Yeah, I want to switch over to something that we call shear rate.
Significant models, pretty significant storm surge. There's been a little receding of that storm surge, and that's okay. If the storm intensifies, we're just right. If the storm intensifies a little more, we are still just right. We are where we are. We're hunkered down. We're staying put. If the storm intensifies, we're just right. If the storm intensifies...
30 million small businesses in the U.S. Shouldn't you be watching Biz TV?
With that other one involved a fellow that lost control on the road in Monroe County. This is an accident in the Keys. Wrapped around a tree, unfortunately, a pickup truck there. The roads, of course, are very treacherous down there, right down Monroe County.
Where the position is right now, we are running out of time before we really see the eye of Irma approach Southwest Florida. And in fact, I believe we're getting the hurricane force winds. Scott, remind me of that wind gust that we saw, 70 in South Collier County?
Yes, in fact, there's a 91.
91 now.
Down to wait until winds are somewhere below 30 or 35 miles an hour, particularly if there's aerial work. So a lot of that is dependent on wind speed and when they can get started.
When do you think it will, and I know this is hard to predict, it's safe for people to go and check out, people who are in shelters and just antsy?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's antsy. We understand that with the slow-moving storm. So this is where we take a big breath here and say, look, we need to be patient so we don't get hurt here. It's really difficult to say, but, you know, we're going to have to see what daylight looks like tomorrow or tomorrow afternoon.
Hundreds and hundreds of regulations. And Paul saw it very clearly in the command to love.
Yeah, if you go into the forecast track and take the icon off, we can then look at just the red line since that's covering up so much.
Right now, that line looks like it goes directly over Naples at this point, right over Naples, right over Bonita Springs, right into Fort Myers, and then Cape Coral at this point. It's hard to see with the icon on top, but at this point, it looks like Cape Coral could be seeing the center of Irma move right over and then continue further north into Port Charlotte, over Punta Gorda, over Port Charlotte as it continues its track.
I had to throw that one in. I still have my 18-1 shirt for when the Giants beat the Patriots when they were 18-0 going to the Super Bowl.
In Naples was about 4 feet, but in Marco Island, you sent me some pics earlier tonight. I mean, the storm surge had to be about 6 feet, which is basically inundating a lot of Marco. And then the storm surge in Miami, a lot of people in Miami, I would think in Fort Lauderdale, were saying the last 2 days, wow, we kind of missed this one. The storm surge in Miami is worse than the storm surge in Naples. Why is that?
Okay, so law enforcement officers should be on the road. And in South Carolina, it'll be wet wind by mid-afternoon as the outer bands of Irma will be moving up the coast. We will continue to pray and be back in the best with another update, and also find out more on our news page at WLF.
You've got a bunch of batteries and you've got your transistor radio. It may be old school, but it works, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Greg, thanks for being with us. Blessings to you. Stay safe where you are, and thank you for being on the ground there, serving Jesus in the midst of the crisis, and just shining a light in the darkness and helping others. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. Let's go to Laura, joining us tonight from Florida as well. Hi, Laura. How are you?
Hi, I'm very good, thank God. We had terrible weather here. I didn't lose power, went off and on. I didn't lose power, thankfully. But I was unable to go on the internet, and my cable was off.
Despite the mandatory evacuation orders there, we know what the hurricane did there today. It was a lot of damage, but they say they are prepared for the worst. Peace River Electric Cooperative has shut off all power in order to protect its power grid, and more than 23,000 customers are in the dark in Charlotte County. The Peace River Electric Cooperative shut it down, that system, and there's no timetable when the power will be restored. But they certainly are not alone. A lot of people without power tonight.
It's really just for your safety. Now, in Charlotte County, that curfew is still in effect. WIKX reporter Christy Gross says the worst is over.
So the worst of Irma is over here in Charlotte County. That's why they opened the doors at the public safety building. But just because the danger of the storm is over doesn't try to clear those roads so that emergency responders can start getting to those 911 calls that have been stacking up since they had to pull their crews off the roads. And I'm sure they're probably still not back on the roads at this time as the winds are still going. But I just wanted to remind you that curfew is still in effect at 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. And tomorrow morning, the recovery part of this really begins. But at the end of the day, people here at the Charlotte County EOC are relieved. They say it could have been much worse. So for now, in Punta Gorda, Christy Gross, WIKX News, now.
All right, Christy, thank you. And I think, obviously for...
And I understood why he wanted to just write me off. But I cared about him. I was sick.
When was the last time you saw Roger?
It was the night of his high school graduation.
Right. Yeah, I've been following Twitter all night long and here into the early morning hours. What Seminole County is telling us is they have more than 100 lift stations. That's what they call it, sewage pumping station. And if they're having problems with that, they can't.
Are closed. And in Alabama, officials also prepping for the wrath of Irma.
This is an all-hands-on-deck event.
Hurricane Irma spent a record 3 days as a Category 5 and is the strongest Atlantic Basin hurricane ever recorded outside of the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea.
And Clay and Rachel, you know, we heard so much about this storm surge, but here you wouldn't really know it. The deepest the water gets is about 3 feet, and we are right next to the ocean. This problem, again, community problem, was the debris, the massive winds. But earlier we were in Bonita Springs, just north of here, and we went into homes that were flooded with 3 feet of water.
Around this area in Tampa Bay, we didn't lose power.
Yeah, I mean, that's you're right. It's kind of you've got mixed emotions.
Yeah.
Because you're happy that you have electricity, but at the same time you're also looking at some of the devastation south of the Bay Area, Naples, and I'm looking at Twitter here, which is going absolutely crazy this morning. It's hot this afternoon. Levi says at Kane Show, at Todd Schnitt, at Aaron Jacobson 10, at 970 WFLA, at 93.3 FLZ. Thank you for your excellent coverage of Irma's impact in the Tampa Bay area. You're welcome. This is what we do. Is to make sure that you're informed, you're safe, with a little bit of entertainment at the exact same time. Apparently I-4 is crawling at this point in time. Why are you out?
Is that coming back into Tampa? Do you know?
Yeah. Look, don't. It's not worth it. I just sent Dawn tweeted at Kane Show, is it okay, is it safe to come back to Pasco County? Because I guess she evacuated Asheville.
Suspended emergency operations until the winds and storm surge subside. They say they will only go on calls if a supervisor allows them because conditions are too dangerous. The island is under an evacuation order. Forecasters warn wind gusts around 60 miles per hour and storm surges of up to 6 feet are possible later today. Similar storm surges in...
This is John Stewart, and he was eating a sandwich. And he's like, check this out, you're going to come on my show, we're going to embarrass Republicans, we're going to get the bill passed. And I said, sir.
To do so many things, you find yourself saying things like, I'm ready to throw in the... That's right. I'm at the end of my... That's right.
Speaking of water and homes, a lot of folks have insurance claims that they need to start right now. So a friend of mine who's an insurance agent sent in a great idea, I think, to help you. If you have to make a claim, most insurance companies, I'm going to read you exactly what he said, insurance companies have links on their homepage or their app to file claims. So if a customer has power or you know someone who has power and you can get online today, you can file and start the claim and beat the rush. So in other words, if you start the claim, you get in line first before all the insurance agents, and they'll be swamped tomorrow, but most of them will probably be back at work tomorrow handling phone calls. But if you can somehow start on their app your claim, not with your agent, but with the actual company, Allstate, State Farm, Tower Hill, whatever you have, go to their website, get a claim number, and hopefully you'll get to the front of the line a little bit faster.
A little inside tip, very helpful.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you are watching Wink News, continuing coverage of Hurricane Irma, the aftermath. This is Wink News, the Weather Authority.
As Hurricane Irma moves toward Florida.
Streets. We're going to get to your calls. I see you waiting there, Sage. We want to get your information from Lakeland. We do have to hit a break and check in with news. 800-969-9352. Kane joining me, Aaron Jacobson in studio for Operation Stormwatch. It's 12:30.
News Radio 970 WFLA. Operation Stormwatch.
No more warnings regarding the former Hurricane Irma. It has weakened to a tropical storm, and it has passed Tampa Bay.
Board-certified eye specialist. The result? Quigley Eye Specialist.
Later on this afternoon is what I was listening and hearing from Jason as we start hopefully pushing back there. All right, Rachel, thank you so much for that.
All right, we want to check in once again now with power around Southwest Florida.
This is probably the #1 question we're getting asked by people. When is the power going to be restored? We're going to send it to Greg Parker, who's going to bring us up to speed. Now, I know, Greg, you don't have like the magic 8-ball knowing when it's going to come up, but what are they telling you?
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I really do.
But we'll be okay, I'm sure.
And that wind, the sound of the wind is the scariest part.
It is. It sounds like a freight train coming through. Then the eye came through, and it got nice and calm, so we came out and looked out over the balcony to see what was going on. But I think, all in all, I think we were lucky.
Driving down some of these Marco Island roads like Seaview and again in Hideaway Beach, some of the worst destruction Hurricane Irma left behind on the island. Lanais ripped apart and even boats sinking in the water. And look at all of this flooding.
The beach is over here, maybe 2 blocks on this side, and you can see it just rolling in slowly, making its way throughout the island. So it eventually, I guess it would probably was going to try and cover the whole island, but luckily I guess we're in a higher elevation here on Marco Island, so we were good. And my house is up higher than most of the houses here, so we felt we could weather the storm surge as well as the wind.
How high was the water from that storm surge on this road? It's very dry now.
And night cramps in their legs may be caused by varicose veins.
At RRC Vascular,
a lot of them are true, like weather geeks or whatever it is.
I think we're due to take a break. When's the last time we broke? Can we take a break? Sure, Monica?
And she's been, I mean, from this morning when I woke up at 3 until now, she's still going. And
it still looks great. She's doing a great job.
Oh, and she's on with us. I mean, she's on with us too. She's like wearing like 75 hats here.
FPL performs these steps simultaneously whenever possible to get power back to more people as quickly as we can. We understand how hard it is to be without power, and we appreciate your patience as our crews, along with out-of-state workers, help bring life back to normal.